I'm Jason Gilbo here at Fantasy Football Cafe, taking a look at a somewhat undervalued fantasy football team. Looking at the Baltimore Ravens today in our quick team previews. Um, Ravens had some nice moves over the offseason, doing a lot in the draft. They parted ways with Torrey Smith. Who had a nice fantasy season, snagging in 11 touchdowns. That was kind of unexpected, but lacked in the yards with just 767. Um, on the other side of him, you had Steve Smith. He grabbed 79 catches for over 1,000 yards and 6 scores. Not a bad wide receiver there. And looks like this will be the last season for Steve Smith, as he said he's going to retire this season. So interesting to see where the Ravens head next year. With Torrey Smith out the door, the Ravens drafted Brashad Perryman out of Central Florida. Big physical, kind of a freak athlete guy. He's going to get targets from the get-go. You got to like his floor coming into the season. They also drafted a tight end, Max Williams, out of Minnesota, with Dennis Pitt on the PUP list. Not sure how he's going to do. The guy's gone down with huge injuries over the last 2 seasons. Early reports on Max Williams is that he struggled to handle Mark Trestman's playbook. So could be something, early in the season where it causes a possibility of him to lose some snaps or so. But that's going to be something that we keep an eye on over the preseason. I really like Mark Trestman coming into the offensive coordinator job here in Baltimore. Going to produce a nice passing game with Flacco. Not a lot of upside with Flacco, but pretty safe floor. I think Flacco's probably one of the best streaming quarterbacks there is because he usually either gets drafted very late or not at all. I've seen in a few leagues. So that's interesting there. And you can usually kind of ride him maybe for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, especially against, subpar defenses. He's definitely going to be written up quite a few times in my streaming articles. You got to like him in that offense, some decent targets as well. I do like the three wideouts or slash tight ends there with Williams. Grandy figures things out. But Steve Smith is going to come in as a likely number one target. Definitely going to see over 110 plus targets there. Gotta like them. Perryman on the other side, physical talent, little raw in some aspects, especially his route running, but nobody really to compete with there. Going to be somewhat of a work in progress, but something that I think who's going to produce pretty safe numbers at his average draft position so far. And like I said, if Max Williams figures things out, you got to like Flacco and what he's done with his tight ends. Also, looking back with what Martellus Bennett did with Chicago under Trestman, could be a nice blueprint for some success there. Onto the running game, kind of an interesting Justin Forsett, real clear-cut number one there. There's no real issues with anyone taking his job away. Re-signed with Baltimore, had 235 attempts last season, rushed for about 1,200 yards, 8 scores, led all running backs with a 5.2 yards per carry. He's going to be rushing behind one of the best offensive lines in football there, all returning players. Could make more in the passing game. Trestman's been known to feed some targets in the passing game to his back, so I like that a lot. Definitely some upside with Forsett there, especially if he gets the passing game, but I think a pretty safe floor if they just keep him grounded there, especially if he produces the same yards per carry, which a little unlikely, but he should be flirting with that. Is there some risk with Forsett? Yeah, not a heavy track record, you can argue. Also, he's going to be turning 30 in October, always a number that scares you away from running backs. But I'm going to bank on another solid year for Forsett there. He's just ranking outside the top 10 in some rankings for running backs, so a lot to like. Overall, pretty simple preview here with the Ravens. You can't really knock them. Solid team to like with Trestman there now, and they're going to produce some solid fantasy football numbers.